Hello, I'm Bryon Wilford, Member of Parliament for Richmond Hill, and this is MP Report. With me this week is my good friend and neighbour across the corridor, Wayne Easter, who's the Member of Parliament for Malpeque in Prince Edward Island, former Solicitor General, and just an all-around great guy. And he is our agricultural critic. And I've asked Wayne to comment on the state of agriculture in Canada and also about labeling issues, particularly dealing with GMOs.
Well, Bryon, the pleasure to be on this, and we do share a good relationship across the aisle. In any event, we're extremely worried about where agriculture is at, especially from the farm sector. The estimates come down 2 days ago, and there's a cut of $418 million from the agricultural budget. $250 million of that will come from the risk management program, which is the bottom line safety net that farmers have to protect them in terms of farm incomes. The government will argue, well, that's an indication that things are better in the farm. No, it's not. The hog and beef industry have been in severe crisis, especially the Ontario border east. And we've long argued that all they have to do is change the reference margin, complicated issue, but change the reference margin and they would actually get money out there to primary producers through the safety net program. So instead of cutting it, they should have been allowing the safety net program to do what it should do, which is enhance producers' incomes. The other major area of concern is as it relates to research. And the substantive cutbacks in research through Agriculture and Agri-Food Canada, research that is important in terms of products moving forward. And the third major area, programs have been cut on food safety issues that relate directly to farmers. In other words, there was funding available from the federal government for me and my farm to be able to enhance my operation with safety criteria, biosecurity, etc., and some of those programs have been cut. So the government is very much wrong-headed in terms of not carrying forward on the food safety issues that's important to farmers and to consumers, not carrying forward on research that's important to the future of the industry, and undermining the bottom line criteria and funding as it applies to safety net programs.
And it seems odd at this time, particularly when hog producers were severely hit over the last year in particular.
Well, that's the thing. You look at Canada right now, 25% of the pork that's being consumed in this country is coming from the United States. And that's worrisome. We used to be what would you call it, the breadbasket of the world to a great extent. We're losing that. And you're seeing tremendous differences and fluctuations between the regions in Canada as well. Clearly the minister that's there at the moment is just a minister for Western Canada and has forgot everyone east of the Ontario-Manitoba border.
And I might point out that Wayne is a farmer and also a former national president.
As the national president of the National Farmers Union, head office in Saskatoon and farmed in PEI.
So he knows what he's talking about. But also important, of course, Wayne, is that talking about consumers, many of the residents of Richmond Hill, of course, are always concerned about, are they buying Canadian produce? Are they buying Canadian meat? Are they buying Canadian food that is helping farmers? And I do get a lot of calls from people who say, well, how come I'm seeing this, which says it's from the United States, in the stores? How come we're not seeing more Canadian?
To a certain extent. They're lucky if they can in fact find out where it's from, because there isn't enough
on the
on the labeling side to tell you where the product is actually from. We fought strenuously at the Agriculture and Agri-Food Committee 2 years ago to change the labeling requirements so that when a product said product of Canada, it was actually a product, the material, the food that's in the package was actually Canadian. We lost that fight to a great extent because of the Prime Minister's decision to go with 98% of content of the product had to be Canadian to be determined Canadian. He set the threshold too high, And so what companies have done is they went to processed in Canada. Processed in Canada being on something doesn't mean it's
Yes,
Canadian
absolutely.
product in the package.
Yeah.
And so again, the Prime Minister monkeyed in a system where the members of all parties on the Agricultural Committee had made a decision that would have clearly told consumers whether it was the product in the package was Canadian or not,
And that would have been a good decision for consumers
and a good decision for farmers.
and a good decision for farmers. And briefly on the whole issue of GMOs, which is one that obviously people also have had concerns about. What can you tell us about that?
Well, on the GMO issue, we've always been of the opinion that if it's scientifically safe, then it's scientifically safe, and we've never went to the labeling of GMOs. It is a controversial issue, and we're always looking for feedback on that area. The best way to assure yourself that you're not buying a genetically modified a product, canola, most of it is genetically modified, a lot of soybeans are, but is to go to organic.
Right.
You absolutely sure that that's not a GMO.
We're seeing
But-
more and more organic in certain of the stores in the Richmond Hill area.
And it's growing 20%. It's the fastest growing sector of the agricultural industry. But I will tell you this, Bryon, at the Standing Committee on Agriculture, we're studying or reviewing biotechnology. And there's some serious concerns about the potential of GM alfalfa coming into Canada and being commercialized here. I put a motion to committee today saying that the government should place a moratorium on the commercialization of GM alfalfa in this country until such times as we can be publicly assured there's the proper research, there's the proper regulations in place that it can't cross-contaminate. And so that moratorium is important to ensure that GM alfalfa doesn't get into the country, undermine our alfalfa markets now in Europe, and basically undermine what is the base of the organic industry.
Well, I really appreciate your comments, Wayne. It's very useful. I know for my constituents, it's an area that we used to have farms in Richmond Hill. Unfortunately, they're no longer there, but we're all consumers. And we all, without the farmers, without a strong farm industry in this country, we wouldn't be able to have food on our table. So I really want to thank you as the critic for the Liberal Party for Agriculture. And I want to thank you for watching. This has been Bryon Wilford, and this has been MP Report.